Kentucky, baby.
Yes, I love that play.
And African soccer.
The team that hasn't scored a goal in 17 decades.
Yeah, San Marino just played Poland. 5-0, they covered.
Oh, that's not African soccer then.
No, that's.
We've got 4 props tonight. Do you have anything, Luffy? You're going to turn the trend around tonight. You're going to.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I mean, those running back props. You got to be kidding me.
Okay, what's worse? Is it your player prop streak, or was it Rasa who had like 16 tiebreakers in a row?
Nothing will ever top that.
That was really bad. But the reason my streak is so bad is because I'm betting the unders on we'll go cold. Betting the unders on these backup running backs, and every week the starter gets hurt.
Critically injured immediately.
Critically injured. First drive of the game, 3 weeks in a row. You can't make it up.
This all started when Rasa took Maryland and they lost everybody right away. And we were all cooked on that one. And ever since then, from player prop to team to college to pro, we're just getting absolutely screwed. I don't know if that's necessarily the best promo for the Awesemo betting show or the Awesemo odds channel, but that's neither here nor there. We're live, and we appreciate you hanging with us on the Awesemo Fantasy Football Show on the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe right away before you do anything else. We have a lot to get into. And look, gentlemen, where to begin outside of injuries, right? From guys who didn't play yesterday to guys who got banged up. The entire New York Giants offense, I think, is hurt, critically injured at this point. Dalvin Cook sitting out. Last night, Sunday Night Football, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, my goodness, Luffy, it's like every week, right? We keep stacking bodies in a hospital ward.
Yeah, it's not good. I thought of a much darker reference for that, and I won't go there. But I'll tell you what, the New York Giants have. It's not what you're thinking. It's not that dark.
Okay,
it's not Ben Rasa dark.
Yeah, smart.
The New York Giants. It's amazing. I mean, you were already down Shepard and Slayton. Then you go down Galladay, you go down Saquon Barkley, and then Daniel Jones looks like he just got off the tilt-a-whirl at the local fair. Did you see him try and step up? I shouldn't laugh. You know, it's not head injuries are not funny at all. But I mean, that guy is so tough that if the refs and the coaching staff didn't catch that, I guarantee he'd be.
He was trying to play.
What'd you say?
Yeah, he was trying to still stay in there, no doubt.
Absolutely.
That dude. Listen, say what you want about Danny Jones, and he hasn't had, the most illustrious career quite yet, but that guy is tough as nails, and he would have stayed out there. So they're in some real trouble. Like you mentioned, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, another one, no Dalvin Cook. You pointed that out as well. And there's more. We'll get into all of it, but I mean, it was just you're right. Just the body bags were coming out left and right all across the league last night and yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, the best solution to this, of course, is add a 17th game to everybody's schedule. Surely that's
absolutely
why.
But hey, there's only 3 preseason games.
Yeah, that'll save them. But no, I mean, war of attrition has started, and certainly it was a full range of it. Like Saquon, that's a freak thing. Just a ridiculous situation where he steps on a guy's foot, the ankle blows up. The Giants just can't catch a break. Galladay got hurt without even getting injured. He just disappeared from the game. Didn't see that, and then Kadarius Toney, who we're going to talk about in this show, did the age-old punch someone with the helmet strategy, got ejected. The Giants are so thin. There's going to be ample waiver wire pickups from them, but a lot of big players are going to be on the sidelines going forward, and that is unfortunate.
Yeah, Miles.
Oh my God.
I meant to say Kadarius Toney with the ever effective helmet punch with the closed fist, which lucky enough for him, he missed. But I tweeted about that too yesterday, Ben. What a ridiculous.
I saw that live. It was just like,
me too. Yeah. I took a video of it. It was so egregious, but at some point, Eytan, we will get to that question from Rolo, because Ben and I on the DFS channel yesterday were like, hey, probably the worst backfield to target in the league this week is the Tampa Bay Bucks. And it just so happened that Brian Flores is bipolar, and well, Myles Gaskin had 10 for 72 and 2 touchdowns. That's just the way it is, huh?
Yeah, he's sitting on my bench right now. I'm looking back at it. Now, it didn't matter because I pounded Jordan into the dust. But yes, I think a lot of people are questioning specifically what to do in that regard. But before we dive deeper into injuries, let's look at the guys who stood out, our MVPs. I know we have the MFP as well, most frustrating player, but let's go around and kind of at least give some props and praise to those who stood out. Lofty, let's start. Who was I know you have your MFP, but who was your MVP?
It's Alexander Madison, not because he was the highest scoring player on the slate, and he wasn't, but because if you were someone that was able to scoop Alexander Madison off the waiver, these are the type of things that'll win you leagues, right? You don't need somebody that you scoop off the waiver wire, especially if you're in leagues where you don't have fab and it's just like priority order, and you really needed to grab somebody to put you over the top for this week. It doesn't need to be someone that you're picking up for every single week that's going to be an all-time, an everyday starter, an every week starter. Somebody like Alexander Madison, when they give you a game like this, can make a huge difference, whether you grabbed him to supplant Dalvin Cook for the week, or you picked him up as a non-Dalvin Cook owner, which is always the best because you don't have to worry about a handcuff sitting on your bench that you only use once or twice. Yeah, those are the type of games from players like that can win you really, really, or that can win you weeks to put you in contention. And Kadarius Toney, you could make the same argument for him as well.
Ben?
I almost did go with Kadarius Toney, but that punch was so dumb that I couldn't do it.
Him.
I removed him. I'm going to Mike Williams, who has just been absolutely
amazing,
outstanding all year. The Chargers, I mean, they're a serious threat to the Chiefs. He had 16 targets yesterday. He turned it into 8 for $165 and 2 more touchdowns. He's got 6 touchdowns in 5 games. Some of this stuff is unsustainable, and I have a feeling we'll be talking about him again, but there's no doubting what he's done so far. If he stays healthy, the guy's unbelievable right now, and he is single-handedly in some parts keeping teams. I have Mike Williams in a couple of leagues, and he is winning me weeks almost single-handedly.
Remember last week, fellas, when people thought Mike Williams was cooked? That was it? That he was done, like sell low, high, right?
Yeah, he had the 1 for 11, and he just goes right back at it.
Like nothing.
Impressive, really impressive performance.
All right. I'll round out here before we get to Lofty's most frustrating player. Mine, and specifically for me as well, Mike Williams, and I know the touchdowns were not there the last couple of weeks. It didn't have the double-digit targets that we've grown accustomed to, but it's Miami. It's easy to disappear in this offense. It's easy to disappear in a blowout as well. And he was an absolute monster, not only as far as grabs, but also the 2 touchdowns. So definitely a huge performance. And seeing the numbers, but adding the touchdown now puts him in that other Mike category. So huge week for Mike Evans for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people who are rostering him.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is he still didn't have as many fantasy points as Antonio Brown.
Yeah, wild, right?
Antonio Brown had a huge game. Everybody wants to. There was so much condescending talk surrounding Antonio Brown, like he's washed. Look at how old he is. This dude still has it. Like he was the wide receiver 1, 1, 1, 2, and 5 in the 5 years before he got into all this madness off the field, right? Like, and then went to the Raiders and all that shit. He was averaging, what would that average out to, Ben? Like the wide receiver 2.3 or something. You know what I mean?
2, 1, 1, 1, 3, and 5.
1, 1, 1, 2, and 5.
Yeah, that's 10 over 5 years. So 2 on the dot.
Okay, so there you go. I mean, that's insane. And he comes back last year, only plays 8 games. COVID,
ridiculous.
It's a COVID year, and you have all of that. He comes back midway through the season, and now you look at him. I mean, he's got a full year of training camp of practice, and he's just been absolutely dominating. It's you can't look at him across the whole season because he did miss that game because of COVID. But if you drafted Antonio Brown and in a lot of these home leagues, you were getting him really late, you just got a phenomenal play. So I love Mike Evans, but I love Antonio Brown too. And Tom Brady is so good that he can support all of those guys. Now, the great thing about that too, on the other side, Eytan, when I talk most frustrating player, is that Myles Gaskin benefited just as much from Tom Brady's 5 touchdown passes and a stout Tampa Bay run defense as anybody on that Tampa team. Now, Ben and I have talked about this a lot, where it's people look at and this is why context is so important. People will look at something and be like, well, they didn't run at all the last 2 weeks. It's like, yeah, well, they faced Tampa and New Orleans. Nobody even tries to run against Tampa anymore. One, they're probably up 2 touchdowns by the time there's 6 minutes off the clock in the first quarter. And 2, you can't run against Tampa. So Myles Gaskin goes from playing virtually no snaps in week 4. He played 5 snaps, or I'm sorry, he played 12 snaps, 23%, to 69% in this game. So the reason he's the most frustrating player for me, and Ben, I want your opinion on this. And I almost thought about throwing him in the waiver wire pickups because he's still 20% of people don't own him and people probably dropped him after last week. But you're going to look at the schedule and say, oh my God, he's got the Jaguars coming up, then the Falcons, then the Bills, then the Texans, then the Ravens, and then the Jets. So, I mean, just a really, really good slate of games. But is he only going to be utilized in those like that when they're playing from behind? And then you're going to pick him up, you're going to put him back in your starting lineup. And now he's getting no work once again in neutral to positive game scripts.
So there's definitely a chance that it's counterintuitive with this guy, and that, like, of all those matchups you just rattled off, the Bills will be where he thrives because of the same type of environment that you mentioned with Tampa. And I don't have the snap counts in front of me, Lofty, but like Malcolm Brown, I don't even know if he played.
He played 5 snaps.
And I don't believe
so. That's 9% of snaps.
Right.
Gaskin played 69% of snaps.
And it seems like, week to week, this is extremely fluid. But if you told me that Miami is going to win some games, they're in London against Jacksonville next week, and someone's going to have 20 plus carries, I still think that it might be Malcolm Brown in those situations.
That's what I'm saying.
And that is a crazy thing to think about. Against Tampa, Gaskin was non-existent in the running game. Of course, he still had a meaningless carry to kill my under prop, but that's neither here nor there. He got it all done on the targets, and I don't know if we're going to see him register that type of volume in games where Miami's a lot more competitive than we saw yesterday.
Should we also factor in the quarterback situation going on there and just how bad this team is defensively? We were talking about it briefly, Lofty, on the betting show before here. This is a Jacksonville team that you can argue is better right now on paper than Miami based on what they're dealing with, injuries and just how bad the quarterback situation. I said argue. I
would have agreed with you before I saw Darrell Bevel's play calling this week.
Yeah, LaVisca, my man. Good job, guys.
Can you call worse?
No.
Tennessee
the
has
answer
been
to your
burned
question
deep.
is no.
Their secondary's been awful. And it's like, let's just decide not to do that and not get the ball to Shenault, who is a bona fide playmaker. No, it makes no sense. But I get where you're going.
They were going to. I'm sorry. They told us this week. I mean, they were telling media down there that Shenault specifically was the name they were trying to get more involved.
Right. It's all bullshit. I tweeted this yesterday. I was like, Darrell Bevel said they wanted to get him more involved, which, literally meant not involved at all. I guess it's all up to interpretation. And when it comes to coach speak, none of it means anything. You want it to, but none of it does. Dan Campbell said he'd get Swift more involved, and he's getting a lot of quality opportunities, but Jamal Williams is still getting more backfield work. So I don't know, man. But no, I would not say that the quarterback situation makes a difference. If you actually
look at that they're going to be down. My point is not, I'm sorry, let me clarify. My point is that it's not going to directly impact carries or touches for the 2 running backs, but it should significantly impact game script to where you're dealing with a team from offense and defense being so bad on a whole that you are going to be down, and that there are going to be a lot more throwing opportunities than just rushing opportunities. That's
agree with that. What I was saying is I don't think the difference between Brissett and Tua is a big difference whatsoever.
I think they might be worse with Tua.
He grades out on PFF, Ben, at a 52. Jacoby Brissett's at a 72. So granted, look, small sample size, but Tua has not been good.
Their offense, though, as a whole has not been good either, nor has their defense. So when you look at from a team standpoint, they're one of the worst in the NFL collectively.
Yeah, they stink.
No doubt. I just
doesn't that factor in, though, that they're going to be down a lot is my point.
Yes, but down to the Bucks and the Bills is different than down to the Jets and the Jaguars and the Texans. I can't in good faith draw up a scenario where I just expect them to be down at home to the Falcons where they're forced to throw, or to the Jaguars, or to the Texans, or to the
Okay.
Jets.
It's coming, but okay. I get your point. I understand it by all means.
Well, I mean,
And-
do you think they're like markedly worse than those teams I just mentioned?
No. That's what I said is it's just opening up. That's why I was hitting on that word argument a couple of times, because I think at least the door is now open for an argument of them being equally as bad as those teams, as something that we wouldn't make that statement at the start of the season, at the very least. That's all. Things have changed. This all came back to just gauging, and you answered it, which is fine. Just gauging how bad this team is, and then still impacting the running back spot there. We'll continue to. This is not going away with Miami by any means. I do want to get to some injuries though, and we hit on the Giants just as far as how bad this was. Kadarius Toney clearly took full advantage of it, but look, you're down Barkley, Jones, Galladay right now, already down Shepard, already down. Everybody's
Slayton.
pretty much right. Slayton as well. So Kadarius Toney is basically the default guy on this offense. We'll see what happens with Jones moving forward, but man, this is pretty bad just looking at it.
Quite bad. Yeah. I mean, you had John Ross, who's just kind of a burner. You had a guy I've never heard of. I think his name was Board. And then you had Colin Johnson.
Board.
Yeah.
Did you have a
Board.
player prop on him, Love?
No,
Have an underplay.
is it CJ Board?
Yeah,
I think?
CJ
Yeah,
Board.
I know CJ.
Okay. Well,
I
if you're in
love
a 36 person league where you got to start about 50 guys, you might want to look to CJ Board on the wire. Colin Johnson, it's very thin. Booker in the backfield. Certainly, I think Daniel Jones is markedly, unlike what we were talking about with Miami. I think it's a big deal who's under center. I don't really trust Mike Glennon for these guys, but Kadarius Toney, regardless, is going to be involved. He's clearly a playmaker. They can get him the ball in space, and he directly benefits from the multitude of injuries the Giants have.
You have to appreciate that Glennon can see over the line pretty easily, though.
I knew you get a giraffe comment in there.
Oh, don't say that. I just meant he was tall.
Sure.
Who's got the longer neck, him or Davis?
Davis,
Davis
Mills?
Mills. Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
You took a shot at Davis Mills on the strategy show yesterday, and he was Davis Mills was impressive last week.
who took a shot at him?
Society.
Wasn't me.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it's hard not to. Did you anticipate
Talking to you.
that?
No,
No.
didn't have that on the
No.
bingo card, obviously.
He went for 3-12-3 against the Patriots defense. The Patriots ended up winning that game, but I mean, my God, there's no reason. That was one of the most
were running
unexpected,
flea flickers.
improbable performances.
Last week, we had us three and producer Chris all ahead of him in the rookie quarterback ranking. So
That is true.
we may have overshot the mark, but yeah, I think going back to the Giants for a second, being serious, I don't trust Glennon nearly as much as Daniel Jones. I really think that Toney and anyone would really benefit if Daniel Jones is able to clear protocol.
All right. What about Edwards-Helaire last night? And looking at him and kind of the fit in the offense, coming off that 100-yard performance against the Eagles, who suddenly look a little bit better, at least on defense, right, than they did against the Chiefs. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire now is out. Sunday Night Football, we saw him leave, and that was a rough one. What happens now as far as that team, that scenario, and really the trickle-down effect?
Well, all right. So, first of all, the Chiefs are 2-3 right now, which is crazy.
Not
They're
making
still-
the playoffs.
What's up?
Yeah, you hear this? Say it again for society.
They're
Did you
not
say
making the
it-
playoffs.
You know what their odds to make the playoffs are right now? Take a guess.
90%.
No, I would say the odds to make the playoffs for them are probably 60%.
Ben, what did you say?
I said 90.
Okay, so they are right now 80%. They're minus 400 to make the playoffs.
Oh, okay. Text me where I can place that wager for them, that plus money, because I want that plus money. All right.
All right. I mean, hey, if you're about it, that's fine. They're going to figure things out. They will.
That defense, come on.
They're horrible. In all seriousness, any week you have a player going up against the Chiefs defense,
It's amazing.
secondary or running back. You have to play them. That's how bad it is right now. They are truly atrocious. I mean, it is. They might be the worst defense in the league right now. Frank Clark has just been he's been completely non-existent. There's nothing about them right now that is scary at all. But anyway, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you got to go out and you got to go pick up Darrell Williams. You have to. I mean, I don't see any two ways around it. He's already been getting opportunities. So he's going to be the clear number one back here with Clyde Edwards-Helaire out. Now he has, I believe it's an MCL strain. Edwards-Helaire is going to be out for a few weeks, is what they're saying. So if that's the case, Williams came in, played 43% of snaps. Now I will say Jerick McKinnon did run the most routes of the season by far yesterday and was playing 31% of snaps. But it's hard for me to imagine a situation where they're going to be playing that far from behind week to week. So I'm not reading too far into that. Darrell Williams is the pickup here. And yeah, they might not be utilizing the run game to an insane degree, but he's still a very good pickup and they're going to get opportunities to score. So I like that a lot.
Yeah. Just high octane offense, a lot of touchdowns to go involved. He's not going to consolidate a ton of usage, but they make up for it just because they're the Chiefs and that defense. It's hard to think that the Chiefs are going to have the ability to blow teams out in such a manner that they're not going to have to keep their foot on the gas because their defense is going to keep other teams in games. I do think they're going to be just fine long-term, but that even though, again, we don't really need to talk about this, and I was rooting for the Bills. That was not roughing the passer on Frank Clark last night. That was a terrible call, and it changed the entire game.
Sure.
But that's regardless. They can't stop anybody.
Man, well, there were two bad calls like that. Sorry, buddy.
No, they got some real potential shootouts coming up. Like Chiefs, Washington, Taylor Heineke, prime streaming option, coming up this week, Chiefs, Titans, and then the Chiefs and Giants. That might be one day where they just run roughshod over them. But still, it depends on if Daniel Jones, at this point, can you look at any matchup? I'm sure we can find a couple, but can you guys find more than a couple matchups where you're like, hey, that opponent shouldn't score many points if they're facing
Kansas
the Chiefs?
City?
Yeah.
The Jets, that's about it.
That's it, right?
Yeah. But even still, like, they're going to take shots down the field. That's the big thing. And as bad as any offense can be, for example, Jacksonville going up against, and I'm just throwing teams out there, right? Not even looking specifically at the schedule, but even teams that we've seen struggle against good defenses, if you can get 3.5 seconds for your quarterback and send somebody downfield, you're going to have a better chance than not of completing that pass, even if it's Zach Wilson to whatever it may be here, as far, Crowder, whatever it may be. Like, that bad of an offense, I still think you can count on them putting up points.
And even if that's not the case, you're going to get garbage time points if Kansas City just blows your doors off early on. It's a win-win situation.
Yeah, I would say that either way, right? It's bulletproof. Like, either way, it's not going to be, I think, a negative. It would take a lot for it to be a negative impact on the situation, by all means. All right, one more to get to here, and then we'll get to looking ahead, at least from the waiver wire, and also buy low, sell high before we get out of here. Good time to remind you a couple of things. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe here to the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. And as we keep having some great opportunities, Sunday was the drop dead date for the 2 months. Now we're back to 1 month, right?
Correct.
Okay. Just making sure that you can still get that full free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. We have it retail price going for upwards of $90, right? And that's a free package for you with your first deposit, paid contest entry as well. You're going to get $10 site credit to mess around with. We have a bunch of cool things that we do each week with Yahoo, so stay tuned. But really, we want you to jump aboard, and we'll give you that free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. It is an injury to talk about, but my goodness, I mean, the offense, and I know, okay, what happened with Denver, you get that victory. But seeing this on the prep sheet, I mean, Smith-Schuster is in a bunch of leagues. A lot of people have Juju out there. He's done, could possibly be out for the rest of the year. It's just from Deontay Johnson. I know Najee Harris is a staple there, but it's so hard on a week-to-week basis to count on anything with this offense.
Yeah, I'm not as low as everybody else is on the Steelers offense, only because there's just so much volume. Like,
yeah,
there's going to be weeks where Chase Claypool or Ben doesn't have enough time to throw to Chase Claypool. I totally get all of that. But these are still some players that can put up big numbers. We saw Chase do it yesterday. Deontay Johnson only had 2 targets, but he had 2 for 76 and a score. Najee Harris is going to be on the field for every damn play there is.
Every play.
The only question though is, Ben, who really benefits here? Because Juju is one of these guys that's been running out of the slot. How many, let's see, out of the slot, he has been 77% of his routes have been out of the slot. So the only other one that would really be like Ray McLeod, because you're not going to be running, you're not going to throw James Washington in the slot for 3/4 of his routes.
It's a situation where, I think maybe there's a little trickle down effect to these other guys. There's not one guy that's going to slide into, in my opinion, into Juju's role. It'll be irrelevant guys in the offense. The thing I worry about with Pittsburgh the most is actually, ironically, that I think they might be getting better. And if they get better, it's going to be Najee on the ground and Big Ben being actually efficient for a change instead of throwing it 50 times. Yesterday, they really controlled the game against Denver, and the volume for Big Ben wasn't what I want if I was an owner of one of these Steelers playmakers. They still can get it done at times, but it was really Najee on the ground. He had way less targets, and it was way more efficient. So in a way, you almost hope that the Steelers get back to being exposed defensively and force Big Ben to drop back, because volume is what we need here, not efficiency.
And I'll throw this out there. The Steelers last year had actually decent pass blocking and awful run blocking. The same thing is applied this year. They're 30th in run blocking and 7th in pass blocking. So that's the only thing, Ben. I don't know if they'll be able to establish it, given how they can't generate yards before contact for the running backs. But I agree they are getting better.
But a lot of that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, yesterday was the first time where Najee on the ground really looked like they found something. And I worry about that because that's what they want to do. And that guy, he is a Derrick Henry type workhorse. He can really do some damage.
Agreed.
I mean, how much of the pass blocking being efficient, protecting Roethlisberger, but we haven't seen that correlate really into a lot of points on that offense, right? So that's where I guess my concern would be with Pittsburgh, where are they figuring things out, or is it simply a matter of volume, like Ben mentioned with Najee Harris, to where you're taking advantage of a lesser opponent as opposed to looking down the line and seeing, well, that may change drastically, where your offensive line may not be a sieve to put Ben on his back, but it's not like he's been a beacon of accuracy either, right?
Yeah, but it kind of works both ways. If you're forced to throw more because you're not playing well, Najee Harris will rack it up in the passing game. If you're actually beginning to develop some type of run blocking and a better run game, Najee Harris will get it there. It's just a matter of how efficient can you be. We've seen it with Alvin Kamara. Like, it didn't pay off yet, but while Kamara wasn't exactly getting a ton of passing yards or receptions, he was getting career high rushing attempts every single week. So I think if they actually get better blocking in both phases of the offense, you might not see as much volume, but you'll see more efficiency like we did yesterday. So it's a give and take.
Got it. Okay. Just waiting to see if Ben was going to slide in there.
I like that. I think that left it nicely. I totally agree with Lofty there for sure.
All right. Speaking of which, let's move now to the waiver wire. And, I know we had a couple of questions in chat, though. I don't want to breeze by everything here. You mentioned Rolo's point back, and we did cover him.
I hit on it.
Okay, good. I know that we talked about Myles Gaskin. I didn't know if there was a specific reference to that question. But let's look at some waiver wire pickups here. We'll all kind of go around a little bit ahead of week 6. Lofty, let's start with you and see anybody that you've been looking at, even if it's someone we've mentioned already.
Yeah, so I'll say this much. When it comes, I already mentioned Darrell Williams. So this is what I'll say. we had a question from Alex Sanchez saying better waiver wire pickup, Darrell Williams or Devontae Booker. Now, I want to say Devontae Booker, okay, because he's going to get all of the snaps. I think Elijah Penny is the only guy behind him. Booker played 80% of snaps yesterday, almost everything after Barkley went down. Yep. But the problem is here that it doesn't appear that Saquon Barkley is going to be out for a significant period of time. It feels like he avoided a really bad situation. So we're looking at probably 3 to 4 weeks for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The Giants have a schedule coming up that is the Rams. They grade out as the #1 run defense right now. That's not going to be pretty, especially if Daniel Jones is out. And then the Panthers and the Chiefs. I would say wait to put in your claim. Hopefully it's like late tomorrow night or Wednesday, whenever it runs. Let's see what the full diagnosis and expected timeline is for Saquon Barkley. If we're expecting Barkley to be out maybe 4 weeks, which seems extensive, but let's say 4 weeks, then you get Panthers. It's a fine matchup on the ground. Chiefs, Raiders, all of those are really solid. Then I would go Devontae Booker. Wayne Gallman in weeks 7 through 13 last year, when he took over as the #1 back in New York, was the RB6 in PPR formats. Wayne Gallman on that offense. So I'd say Booker if we think Barkley's going to be out, but otherwise, if it's only expected to be out a week or two, I'd rather go with Darrell Williams.
Where is Wayne Gallman?
He was in San Francisco.
Yeah, but he's obviously not, because they lost like 10 running backs.
Exactly.
Right. No, but they cut him. And then I think he went to Atlanta.
Yeah, Falcons. Has he played this year? He's played in 2 games. Come on, Ben.
I'm
7
a big
carries,
Wayne
31
fan.
yards. He's got 2 first-down carries this year.
I like
some
Wayne
respect
Gallman
on Wayne Gallman's name, will you?
So, Lafayette, just to get back to it, because I mean, again, I'm not a doctor. Saquon apparently was on crutches and whatnot. So the line for you is maybe around a 4 game. Like if it's 6-8 weeks or something like that, you think that tips the scales for Booker?
Yeah, I mean, if it's 4 weeks, I think it tips the scales in all seriousness, because you would agree, right? Like the matchups they're not everything, but if you're deciding between 2 of these guys that are both, going to supplant whatever starter got hurt, but temporarily, I'm looking at matchups for sure. So you've got Rams that sucks. You still start them if you have to, but right. I don't want to start them against the Rams. Panthers, Chiefs, Raiders. So there's one awful matchup there, 2 good ones, 1 mediocre one that I'd be fine with. Then the Bucks, that's brutal. And then the Eagles. But I guess, Ben, what I'm saying too is if Devontae Booker is getting all of the snaps anyway, and he's on the field, you have to take the volume there.
Yeah, I'm more with you than not. Barring, and I'd say this is very unlikely, usually a concussion is pretty binary. You can't play until you can. They need Daniel Jones in there.
Oh,
because
for sure.
If they have nobody else, this offense is not going to be able to produce against anybody.
Yep.
And I'll take the 6 touchdowns that the Chiefs produce week in and week out and hope that Williams can grab one of them.
No question. That's why I'm saying, like, the timeline. I want to know what Barkley's timeline is. And same with Daniel Jones, for sure.
It looks like he's going to be out at least 3 weeks, Barkley. I can't imagine that he's back sooner than that.
It seems pretty bad.
Right. But I mean, again, and I have him later here as far as Booker for me on the waiver wire, just mainly because of your situation at the running back. And if you can afford, let's say you're looking at somebody you're streaming in that position, then you've got guaranteed volume for the next month, I would say. Now, again, Lofty's right, where if you want to apply patience, then I'm not going to counter that by any means. But I do think that the guaranteed volume is there. And who knows how long it takes for them to abandon it, right? I mean, I'm not going to get deep into the mind of Joe Judge by any means, or Jason Garrett to a lesser extent. But I don't think that, okay, you're down 7-0 early on, everything goes to shit, and you abandon the game, the run game. So there's going to be volume, built-in volume for Booker. And if Barkley is out significantly longer than, let's say, 3-4 weeks, let's say Barkley is out 6 to 7 weeks, Jones is going to be back before that. So you've pretty much created a window where you're going to get significant volume. And then in that window, Jones comes back. So Booker, I think upside even gets a little bit higher, but it is predicated, I think, on A, how long Barkley is out, and B, what your running back situation is like. I mean, if you've been bouncing around and rotating running backs or picking guys up from the waiver wire each week, living, if you will, off the waiver wire, then all of a sudden Booker becomes pretty appealing because of the volume.
Even if they do abandon the run, though, Booker ran the second most routes on the team yesterday. So he's going to be involved in the passing game, and targets are worth more than carries.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not going away. And look, here's your point, though. Who are they throwing the football to? CJ Board?
Right. I mean, they're going to get guys back, right? They're going to, because Shepard and Slayton have already been out for 2 weeks. I'm assuming soon enough they come back, but yeah, they're still hamstrung. And I don't see why Daniel Jones with a concussion wouldn't be back either. So, you know, I don't know. Okay. What I do know is that last year, Wayne Gallman was absolutely, you don't have to believe me. You can look it up. Granted, a lot of that came on touchdowns, but he was effective. And if you're pulling a guy off the waiver wire and you get 4 weeks from him, maybe as a starter in 3 of them, I'm okay with that.
Now, Ben can't wait. He's been bursting at the seams to talk about Kadarius Toney.
I mean, I do think that in the short term, even if it's as bad as it can get, this guy, before he was ejected, was the only guy doing anything. They can get him, I already said this, but they can get him the ball in space. He's not really reliant. You know, he's just a deep ball guy or whatnot. Like, he's a gadget type guy, and that's really, really impressive. He looked comfortable. It's not going to be forever because these guys, Galladay, Shepard, Slayton, Saquon, they're eventually all going to make their way back at points. But there's no doubt that Kadarius Toney is finding a spot in this offense. And there's also no doubt that they now realize they got to get this guy the ball. He's going to have a presence with this team. So after yesterday, there's no doubt that he's now in consideration.
No doubt. I'm with you 100%. Alexander Bayer said, I loaded up on Damian Harris per Laffy's advice. It was actually a decent play. He almost had 2 touchdowns. 1 got overturned. Yeah, I said he had 2 touchdown upside in that game, but dude, I'm telling you, we've had this running back luck all season, and it's so frustrating. Damian Harris might have had 3 touchdowns in that game if he didn't fumble. He fumbled, and then Ramondre Stevenson got double-digit carries. Like, if Damian Harris doesn't fumble, and I guess you have to build that into your projection with Bill Belichick and shit, but how do you know? So, yeah, I mean, he was still okay. I think he still had, like 14 carries. He had a touchdown. But that could have looked way better if he didn't put the ball on the ground, because Stevenson probably would have stayed on the sidelines a lot more than he did.
And it was –
sorry.
I was to say, who would have thought that they wouldn't have been playing from ahead the entire time?
Right. And he still got – yeah, exactly.
And he still got there almost.
That brings me, though, and it's a segue, because I was going to throw him out there more curious than definitive about Stevenson, knowing, of course, that you saw the little chest injury, right, to Damian Harris, the key fumble that you mentioned, losing, and just from injury to just mistake, right? I wonder now, if we're talking about from the waiver wire, the difficulty, though, and this is why it's a question more so than not, the difficulty is just trying to figure out how the running back is used, and specifically trying to get ahead of a game script with the Patriots that is really difficult, truly difficult, especially compared to a bunch of other teams. So while on the surface, I think there's actually some pretty good value here for Ramondre Stevenson, especially following what happened against the Texans from mistake to injury in front of him, it also begs the question, just does that necessarily mean that volume and carry automatically go to Stevenson? But if it does, then I think that there's some sneaky value here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so Damian Harris had the chest injury, came back, and then left with a rib injury. And there's no doubt that in that offense, you fumble, you're going to lose work. I don't know. You know, he fumbled before and then came back in week, 1 or 2? But I know, Ben, I think
that fumble was on the goal line.
Yeah, it was, inside the 10 for sure.
Dolphins. The Dolphins would be winless if that didn't happen.
Yes, you're right. I'm just so hesitant to, like, if you can't get Williams or Booker, this is what I was, if you can't get Williams or Booker, I think you could look to someone like Stevenson.
Yep.
But the difference between Ramondre Stevenson and them is the passing game work is just not going to be there, right? It's going to go to there's a number of players that passing work can go to. And even with James White out, I think it's reasonable to assume that Bolden gets some of that. JJ Taylor, even though he wasn't active, could come in if Damian Williams misses any time and get that passing work. So it would be strictly on the ground. And I don't know if Damian Williams is going to miss time with the rib injury.
Well, the injury combined with the fumble might be the move now to put Stevenson ahead. And it's it could just be short-lived, right? That's what I'm saying.
So, Damian Harris, just by the way, just to clarify, Damian Harris.
What did I say?
Not Williams. Too many Williams versus Harris's. But yes, we're talking about Damian Harris. I just wanted to get that out there.
Was that me or Loughran?
I think we were all saying Williams at one point.
Okay.
But here's my issue. It's not that great of an offense. And so you have the no pass catching work, not a great offense. Like, I liked Damian Harris because I thought he was going to be the bell cow back this week.
Yeah.
You know, you give me 20 plus carries, and it seemed like he was certainly on pace for that against Houston. And like Ben said, who thought they'd be down? What was it, like 21-6 at one point? There's a lot of question marks here. Is it possible that Stevenson, that Belichick just makes the shift? Certainly. But if that's the case, you're probably waiting a few weeks to ever plug him into a starting lineup.
I still think, and I don't like to get into the insight of what coaches want to do. And I know in New England, if you fumble, it's a detriment, but we've seen time and time again, the Patriots don't have the room to be messing around. They need him on the field if they have any hope of keeping pace. And yes, if he keeps fumbling, obviously that'll tip the scales, but I still think that Harris has a pretty big leeway and runway because he's just a really good playmaker. And on this offense, they need him out there. So I think that he will work his way back once again if he's healthy and still have the first crack at most things.
One more fumble, though. You have to think.
Yeah,
right?
He's teetering on it. There's no doubt.
All right, let's move on here and get back, Ben, to another waiver wire pick that you like.
So this is a different situation. This is a guy that I don't think there's any major urgency for, but some teams and the Jets are coming. They have their bye week, so we're going to get that out of the way. And then they will just play. They're not dead and buried yet, but realistically, they kind of are. And I think this is going to be an opportunity for Michael Carter, who a lot of people were extremely high on, and then everyone was down on because it didn't work to an extent, to maybe get back in the mix. And the Jets are an ideal candidate to be planning for the future. And this guy has contributed at times, and I think we're going to see him get more and more work. We've talked about him a lot with a guy like Javonte Williams for the Broncos. And the key difference that we all thought was that the Broncos are still very relevant and they're starting to fall back, but they're not just going to cede time to him with Melvin Gordon being someone that can help them win games.
For sure.
The Jets, soon enough, it's not going to matter. It's going to be, let's plan for the future. And I think that'll give someone like Michael Carter a lot of opportunities to get the bye week out of the way. I think he's an interesting pickup, actually, when a lot of people are just not literally looking at him and looking at other areas.
I have zero argument with that. It's simple at this point.
Yep. All right. So let's keep it moving then. You've got one more before we look at some buy lows, sell highs.
Yeah, I was going to throw Rashad Bateman in there, but now we got a report about an hour ago that he's not going to play. He was activated from the IR. I was going to say you could pick if you have deep benches, right? And on team or deep leagues where it's really hard to find depth. And I'm in a few of them where it's just, there's nothing ever on the waiver. Rashad Bateman will be a guy that plenty of teams, plenty of leagues, I should say, weren't going to go anywhere near him because he was out. He's less than a quarter owned in all of Yahoo leagues. But now that he's not playing, I would say pick him up today. I still don't hate the idea of stashing Bateman. They drafted him in the first round, 27th overall. Marcus Brown has dropped 2, you could argue 3 touchdowns on the season in a game that Justin Tucker saved them from losing to the Lions. I think they're going to, Greg Roman has been a guy that always runs the football heavily, doesn't like to throw. But I think the idea to draft someone like Bateman so early suggests that they want an alpha receiver in this offense, and they're going to need that help later in the season. So I don't mind stashing him. But the guy who I would mention, if you want to pick up now, David Njoku.
Hmm.
He has not been very active as a pass catcher, but week 5 yesterday, explosive performance. What did that game see? Like 95 total points or some crazy shit.
It was
89.
insane.
Yeah, insane.
What a
89
game.
total points.
Not a scoreagami though.
No,
No, one other time.
89 total
47,
points
42?
one other
Yeah,
time.
47-42.
did you immediately look that up after the game?
You're damn right I did. I didn't even care who won the game. That's all I really wanted.
Yeah.
We needed 47-45, right? That would have been
Sons of
a
But-
scoreagami.
Well, all I know is that Njoku was far more involved than Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper still played more snaps than him, but it didn't matter because Njoku ran more routes than Hooper, was targeted 7 times. Of course, he had that 70+ yard touchdown, but still, he caught all 7 targets. You're, of course, dealing with Jarvis Landry, who is out. Donovan Peoples-Jones is someone that could get worked in a little bit more, but still, you could see David Njoku pull away from Austin Hooper in a big way. Austin Hooper was out there to block most of the time. He was not targeted once on the entire day. Meanwhile, you saw what we got out of David Njoku. It's such a thin tight end position. There just isn't much talent there. So I don't say, make him your number 1 priority, but if you do have a real lack of depth at tight end, maybe you drafted George Kittle, right? Maybe you have other tight ends that you drafted that just aren't performing, then this could be one of those guys that you scoop up. So for that reason, I think Njoku could start giving us some decent numbers going forward.
I'll tell you that X play. I know you referenced it, the big one, but that was all him. I mean, that was him on the route. That was him just with a monster stiff bounce off. So it's not like, somebody fell down or things along those lines. I know, Ben, you were jumping in with Njoku, but I love it if you can sneak him in there and somebody hasn't already looked at him. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the position scarcity is huge with tight end. There's just not that many options. And when a guy emerges, he's obviously got the talent. You don't have the luxury of saying, oh, I'll wait in a couple. There's just not that many situations with tight ends. So that is a good one on a Browns offense that at times really is explosive somehow.
All right, let's lock down here a bunch of buy low, sell highs. Hit that thumbs up button, of course, and make sure that you're subscribed here to the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. We have that deal still now. We scaled it back to 1 free month, but we're still giving out that free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum upon your first deposit and paid contest entry with Yahoo. It's amazing what the damage you can do. We'll give you the $10 free as well in site credit. So all we ask again is just in return, bump up those likes here. Over 100 watching, 22. That should be a little bit more of an equal ratio by all means. All right, so let's hit this on our way out. And I know we each have a couple here to look at. Ben, why don't you start with yours? And both of you guys actually have some big names. I went a little different route here, but that's fine. Why don't we start here? Buying low, guys that you think you can take advantage of. Rasa, why don't you kick it off?
So I think that one of the things I looked at is teams that have had kind of one specific game script or scenario and said, okay, well, what happens when inevitably that flips? And one of them is Arizona. They're a really good team. They're not 17-0 good. And DeAndre Hopkins, he was a little banged up. I still believe that he's going to start to become more and more of that alpha, particularly it's going to start this week because they are going to lose to the Browns. But he had 9 targets last week in a competitive game against San Francisco. Kyler really didn't have to throw a ton, so that target share was actually really good, north of 30%. And it's just a situation, it's been a slow start, but I don't see any reason why it won't be what we want going forward. The touchdowns have been fine. He just has 23 catches, though, through 5 games. That's very atypical of Hopkins. And I know they've got other guys. I still think he is going to be fine. And in really competitive games, he will have north of 10 targets each and every time. And that's going to be the opportunity for DeAndre Hopkins of old.
I know they're winning games, but you have to use DeAndre Hopkins more. And he had actually come up to, I think it was Cliff Kingsbury, and said, like, I'm always open. I'm always open. And it's not hard to believe. DeAndre Hopkins makes plays. I'm not joking. You could go on Twitter, go YouTube, wherever it is. And he makes plays that looks like he's being controlled in a video game. That's how good this guy is. Did you see that end zone catch of the pylon yesterday? There's like how many wide receivers make that play? Not a lot of them. I like that. I'll go to a wide receiver as well as Ben. These guys were drafted in season long leagues and in standard or PPR leagues, just standard rosters. I mean, they were drafted within 4 or 5 spots from each other. I'll go to Stefan Diggs. Everybody, there's a lot of concern when it comes to Stefan Diggs with people right now, but consider this. He's still 7th in the league in targets. Okay. He's still getting peppered with targets. They are still clearly a pass heavy offense, right? He's going to get his. He's only scored 1 touchdown so far. And when was it? Week 2? Yeah, it was week 2. But he has 14, 8, 10, 10 and targets, and then 5 yesterday where he just wasn't needed amazingly against the Kansas City Chiefs. I look at someone in Diggs and just feel like the guy is going to come through. He's running routes on almost every drop back. He already has 6 targets in the red zone this year. He leads the team in targets inside the 10-yard line. The touchdowns, you'll see positive regression there, yards, everything. Those big Stefan Diggs games will come, and you're probably going to find someone that's bugging out right now that'll sell you Diggs at a significant discount from where he was drafted.
Still tied for the lead for targets yesterday with the game that he had. And
yeah, listen, he's still the number one option.
He has the big play, right?
Yeah, he's still the number one option. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I feel like that's perfect 3-card Monty mentality, right? Like find the mark and take full advantage of that. And you know that there's somebody in your league right now who's panicking. And if you can get that person with Diggs, part of me, that's a win-win right there. I love that. Want to hit the super chat real quick. And interesting question here from Slim74. Put a $10 waiver in for Jerick McKinnon. Like his skill set more than Williams. Is he off? Another super chat. We appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ben.
So I don't know about off. I just think it's a situation where McKinnon is really drawing to specific game scripts with them. I don't see a lot of scenarios where he's going to be pounding the rock. And if they control games, because they still are the Chiefs, in my opinion, they're going to be winning more often than losing. A guy like Darrell Williams, who's more familiar with the offense, is more prone to do that. Now, if you think, okay, I really think this team is struggling, they're going to be in shootouts, and McKinnon, he was running a lot of routes and whatnot, I don't mind that, but I do think more often than not, Darrell Williams is going to give you the floor and the safety, whereas McKinnon, I'm not sure exactly where he fits in the multitude of gadget options that they have.
So I'm pulling this up right now. Let's see here. On the season, I was trying to find team running back targets. Hold on.
Team back for overall?
Yeah, I got it.
Just last week.
No. Overall.
Okay.
So total targets. Here we go. Where's Kansas City? There they are. So Kansas City is targeting their running backs at the 5th lowest clip. So kind of to what Ben was speaking of as well. If they're targeting running backs that low, and he's only going to be a 3rd down back, I don't think there's enough meat on the bone there. Even if if you want to put a low bid in, fine. But who are you dropping? Just make sure you're not dropping someone that's actually has utility.
Well, he followed up dropping Fields for Burrow. So I don't know if he's dropping anybody in that regard for McKinnon. Sorry, Ben.
No, that's what I actually wanted to, I wanted to ask you, because, we don't get into QBs a lot on this show.
He hates
obvious
QBs.
Reasons.
It's Luffy. He directs the conversation away. I brought up quarterbacks last week, and he just on Friday, and you should see the look on his face. He was disgusted, Russ.
I know you hate him.
I don't hate quarterbacks. I just think they're not worthy of conversation for fantasy purposes.
What do you think about this, though? I really do think this is an interesting question. Slim has Russell Wilson. So do you drop Fields for Burrow in a situation like that? I mean, to me, it seems like yes, unless I'm missing something.
You have to, right?
Fields doesn't have, not Fields. Burrow doesn't have the same rushing upside, but he does have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Yes, I would. And the truth is, right, I would have a very different opinion on this if Justin Fields was utilized as a runner at all, but he's not. You want to hear his rushing totals? I'll tell you. In the games that he's either spot started or started, 12, 9, and 4. He had 31 rushing yards in week 2 against Cincinnati, but no, man, Fields just, is it going to come? Possibly, but he is still a pass first quarterback. He always has been. He has that upside with his legs, but they're not utilizing it. It's not a good offense. Yeah, I'd play Burrow. I'd start Burrow or pick him up over Fields. Sure.
You just can't count on anything changing for the better in Chicago around Fields. Like that's the variable that's so difficult, right? Like Matt Nagy's not just going to wake up and get it.
Right. It's just more so if you're not running, like if they're not, maybe next week we see Fields take off and rack up 70 rushing yards, but you're not putting him in the same category as Lamar Jackson, who can run, or Jalen Hurts, who can run.
No, no.
Or even Lance. Like they let Lance go. Yeah. Like
right.
He might hit 100 yards in one of these games. Justin Fields, that's not going to happen.
Fields is like Wentz now, mobile.
Pretty much. I mean, there's no way that he's not mobile anymore.
No, but I'm saying like as far as,
yeah,
exactly what we're getting from, by all means. All right, real quick. I know we're winding down here. Any sell high candidate? I see Lofty. Maybe you're just trolling me. My guy, you want to get rid of my guy already for 3 weeks. He was up there at the top. And now you think it's time. Cordell Patterson.
Oh, yeah, Cordell Patterson. Because you're never going to get if you think that he sustains this production throughout the season, he is the 8th. He is ranked 8th in PPR points. Not a wide receiver, not a running back. Overall, he is 8th, okay? And he's coming off another solid game, but you had no Calvin Ridley. And now, by the way, they have a bye week coming up this week. So you have a bye week here. Not to say that any teams aren't going to have a bye week, but if you were to unload and boom, no bye week, or bye week is here. You have the bye week coming up this week, which gives Russell Gage time to come back. I'm not saying Russell Gage is great or anything, but then Ridley would be back. Kyle Pitts' role is probably going to expand more as a rookie. And Mike Davis is still getting, outside of yesterday, the majority of carries at least the split. So I love what Patterson's doing, but let's not ignore. And I even had him in my must starts video this week on the channel. But you're still talking about a guy who was playing 30% of snaps and averaging 4.5 yards per route run. It's not sustainable. So while I think he's still going to be serviceable, if someone's willing to pay like top 10, top 15 value for Cordell Patterson, you pounce on that immediately. And there's also no way on that offense that he's going to have the same touchdown equity of some other better players. So yeah, I think he is definitely a sell high option.
2 words, 1 hyphen, all pro. That's all I got to say.
Oh God.
Wait till they discover Wayne Gallman's the best running back on that team. Just get him out of there.
Hey, Ben, on the way out, I know you have one too. My squad's about to be 5-0 in the C League. Mike Williams is driving my team to victory, and you want me to sell him?
So it's a situation. It's a simple thing. I'll keep this very short. It's just like Cooper Kupp. Mike Williams is amazing.
I've got him too.
But nobody is as good as 6 touchdowns in 5 games. The stock will never be higher. So it's not to say just automatically shop him. It's if you really have various needs, this would be the time to possibly look for a big package, because the haul you could get for him could be massive at this point, because he's unbelievable. He is sometimes injury prone. There's just a lot of things to consider. So if your team is fully functioning, don't just look to trade him for no reason. It's just specific situations. I think right now his stock is as high as it could really ever be, because how could it get any higher? He's unbelievable.
Rolling through that C League. Watch out. I'm coming for you guys.
Couple of years, you'll be up with
yeah, I know.
Big dog.
We appreciate all you guys hanging with us. We're going to be back on Friday. Myself, Lofty, and Matt at Lofty_D is how you follow Dave. At JazzRazDFS is how you follow Ben, and at Shander Show is how you follow Eytan. Thanks to Chris, and thanks to Yahoo for powering this program with a great opportunity to jump in 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, and hit that thumbs up button, subscribe on your way out. Have a great night, everybody.
Peace.